Hey everybody, this is Roland and Galena from eatwellmovewell.com, and we are here in beautiful Dana Point Harbor hanging out for the day. Just got done stand-up paddling. Well, she did, I didn't. And I spent some time walking around, and one of the things I found, I was walking behind some people that were talking about foot pain. Both of the women were in pretty bad pain, even though they were walking around trying to get in some exercise. And they were talking about one had flat feet and the other one had a pretty bad bunion. And they were talking about how it was both genetic and how they were doomed. And each one said, oh yeah, my mom, the one with the bunion said my mom has flat feet, and the one with the the flat feet said my mom has bunions. So they were both doomed genetically. What do you think about that?
Well, that's very common. Like, I hear that story in my studio almost every day. It's especially fun when I get to work with somebody who's had bunion surgery on one side and we get to work on the other foot and avoid it. And that doesn't explain genetics. So it's important to know that genetics has two components. One is you do inherit the tissue quality of your parents to a certain degree. But then the second component is that you also inherit the way that they move, their movement habits. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, you walk like mom or dad, because that's who we learn to walk from.
Because you've learned from them. You watched them.
Yes.
Okay.
So you mirror movement from your parents, right? That's how we learn how to move. And second, mom and dad chose shoes for you, probably similar to how they chose shoes for themselves. So if mom and dad wore shoes that were too tight for them, right? If this is your foot, and your shoe is too tight and it pushes that big toe in, right? Mm-hmm. When mom or dad choose shoes for you, they're not going to consider this. If they're not considering it for themselves, they're definitely not going to consider it for you. Does that make sense?
That's true.
So one of the ways we get a bunion, or we call it also hallux valgus, is by that big toe migrating in, right? Mm-hmm. Towards the midline of the foot, right? Okay. So you end up having like this protrusion here on the outside of the foot.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So if your shoe is too narrow, it's going to bend that toe in. Now the other way you develop a bunion is when you're sedentary and don't move around enough, especially when you don't move around shoe-free. What happens is, because you lose some of the mobility in the ankle joint, you end up turning your feet out.
Yes.
So instead of your feet pointing straight when you're walking, they're turned out, kind of like people call that duck-footed. Mm-hmm. And so every time that you step, you're not really stepping on the heel and then toeing through all the toes, especially the big toe. Okay. But you kind of end up landing on the outside of the heel and then you roll your foot. And so gravity and your body just smoosh and keep hitting onto that big toe, and you push off a bent big toe. Does it make sense?
It does.
So you end up, because of...
And that pushes it in.
That pushes it in, just the way you push forward.
Okay.
Because your feet are turned out. So lack of movement, poor shoe choices, and then just trying to walk on those feet. Because people have an inherent need to walk, or they walk for health. And they walk no matter how their feet are aligned. And so the way they walk just reinforces that bunion formation even more.
Okay, so it's genetic in the sense that you might have a genetic predisposition.
Sure.
But for the most part, most of the bunion comes from shoes, movement or lack of movement, and the type of movement that you're doing. Correct.
Which is why when we get into a program to reverse that, we realign the big toe. There's specific tools that we have that realign the big toe so it's pointing straight instead of in.
Like a hammer?
Yeah, like a hammer, the opposite of a hammer. So we have some toe separators that we use for that. And then also we teach you how to bend through the ankle joint again and how to walk better. And that's just all a part of retraining your way of movement, because if the way you've been moving has been causing a bunion, you need to change the way that you move in order to get better. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah, so that's it.
All right.
So those people are full of it.
But they just don't know any better.
They just don't know any better.
Maybe they'll listen to this video and
hopefully
then,
so.
Yeah. So thanks. That was a good 5-minute video, and we are back to the beach.
Yep. See you soon.
See ya. Bye.